And you are at Smart Life with Dr. Gina. Now, isn't the goal of a job interview to paint ourselves in the best possible light? We make ourselves look like superstars on our resumes, don't we? But then how much is too much? And when should we gloss over the little truths that might send the wrong message to a prospective employer? Workplace influence author and coach April Braswell is here to break it all down for us. April, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being with us. Now, what if you were fired from your last job, or you have a criminal record, or there's something that you just really don't want this person to know, and you're not sure they're going to find out? Is it best to just go ahead and be transparent about that up front in the interview, or is it best to wait and find out and then try and explain it later? I think my daughter always says, apologize later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was very much how the military handled it, was to go forward with action first and apologize later. However, when it comes to your career, and it's not just about today, this job. I know in this economy, many people are thinking about, oh my goodness, I just need to be able to get a job for this season. I need to provide for my family right away. However, if you're really making those egregious lies on your resume, then they really do find out. HR will find out. It is such a transparent society now. What you think it's not on your professional career hasn't been on LinkedIn, Plaxo, and multiple places over the years, let alone did you include it in Facebook or not?
Yeah.
So if it is a place, because you mentioned being fired from your last job, if it's a place where you were really there only quite briefly, and I've literally had clients where they literally had, I can't even get into it, but like the weirdest of circumstances of where they were hired and then were fired in something like 5 weeks, and it really was not them, it was weirdness at the company.
Sure.
That is something where you might not want to put that on your resume. If you're, you have a career that is more than 5 to 7 years of being a professional, if you're just out of school, you're just out of college, you're just out of your graduate program, really every single job you have, even if it's 3 months, 6 months, I was doing an internship, you're citing it. However, this is the wonderful thing. I always sort of joke about it, and we're ladies, so like we can joke about, I wear makeup, is I like to say, do not do an overt, egregious lie. However, marketing in your resume is all about marketing. You are putting your best foot forward, and I want you to put the truth as favorably as possible. We're wearing makeup, so like, you know, is it a lie? My lips are not actually this shade of red. Yes, thank you, it's lipstick. So am I lying? You know, it's like, no,
Right.
it's marketing. So what you can do, rather than those really egregious lies, if you've got something like, we'll touch on the criminal record thing, like, oh, that's another whole thing, but most people have been fired over something at some point during their overall career.
It doesn't quite have the stigma it used to
No.
have. Like it used to be a big deal to say
Very
I've
much.
been fired, but we just have a more kind of vibrant, dynamic workforce these days in ways that just lend themselves to more transitions in employment, don't they?
Absolutely. It used to literally be where you were supposed to be at the same company for 10 years, 20 years. You were meant to be there for your whole career. Not at all anymore. In fact, it's actually almost a problem in certain industries when you're transitioning to industries that go away, Blockbuster Video, you know, whole industries that are gone. How do you explain this? You need to be able to transition. You can't say I was there for 25 years. You're not good in another industry if you didn't move around at least a little bit. So really, in most cases, even if you were fired, there are very few employers who, if HR or a manager, a hiring manager, is actually going to phone the company, it is because we're in a, like, I can't even say the word now, but because of so many places suing, litigious, I can't even like pronounce the word without like stumbling over it, that one, then they're really pretty much almost, at least in California, not really allowed to say anything more than confirming dates of hire and when you left. They're not allowed to discuss why you left. And so it's for you to position that as favorably as possible.
Okay.
And it is find some gracious reason, and preferably, you know, go take on something, a consulting gig. It's something temporary,
Something sort of self-improvement, career improvement,
right
that tells
after.
that employer that, hey, you know, like anything in life, you've thought about it, you learned a lesson, you've made some sort of self-improvement over it, and now you're a brand new, ready to go person on this project. That's kind of the message you want to send.
It is. It's also, you don't want it to be obvious that you were fired. So there needs to be another gracious reason that you were the reason behind for why you left. I went to go to complete my master's degree.
Right.
I just decided it was time for me to finally finish my undergraduate, something like
right.
that. So it gives you a polite escape clause for why you left the job.
And not to
versus,
mention
I was fired.
a conversational transition there, if you will. We always get asked in job interviews, what's your greatest weakness? How honest do we have to be in that?
I hate those.
I know.
Because it actually depends a little bit on your profession. So if you are in the sales and marketing sort of professions, they actually rarely really ask you that. There are certain industries or jobs, and I used to really sort of joke about it, that it was, I mean, you're supposed to, say like, oh, I'm such a hard worker, I'm nearly, I'm such a workaholic.
I'm just workaholic.
Right, I'm a workaholic. That's my biggest thing. And yet, HR is like, their job is, and that's it, because literally HR, it is their job in the employee reviews to be identifying things to be improving and the weaknesses in your greatest skill set. The more that you can focus on something from your career where, gosh, maybe there is a class or a certificate that I want to go pursue.
Oh.
Tie it in.
I like that.
Yes. Weave it in with that about here's something that
This is something I'd like to work on.
Yes, and
Yes.
I've already identified something for me to do as opposed to, oh, woe is me, oh, I'm so bad at this. Of course you're not going to talk like that.
Right.
It's just you want it to be where it's very constructive and to show to a hiring manager, I've identified things for me to work on, and I'm working on them. Mm-hmm.
What about when you're confronted, and we don't have a lot of time left, but when you're confronted with something that you're being accused of, and you really didn't do it, it really wasn't your fault, is that the time for the brutal honesty? Oh, actually, that was my manager that did that, when the manager's going to get in trouble?
Never.
Or should you just take the fall?
You never blame it on the manager, especially in any. So there were like so many examples we could go to. So we'll go straight for the example of something that maybe is kind of known in your industry, like something happened, and they may even kind of suspect maybe it was the manager or management or something like that. It's never blame a specific person, because what they're looking for is what kind of a team player are you? What kind of employee will you be with them?
Are you willing to take responsibility even by default, sort of?
Exactly. Something like that, of where it was, gosh, the team, it kind of like defeat. I don't want you taking the 100% blame. This is not the thing for the military where you're like, I've got your back, and I'll take the bullet. You're not the Secret Service. What they want to see is that you are someone who's positive and knows how to be a team player and who will put them as your manager in a good light. So talk about, gosh, it's something where I don't really know whose fault it was. Never, you never admit blame, and you don't blame one person.
I don't know whose fault it was, but I'll take responsibility for making sure it doesn't happen again.
Something like that. It's the whole team. Gosh, our communication could have been better. Here's something concrete I see myself wanting to do going forward, so that never happens here.
Super. Great advice, April
Thank you.
Braswell. Thank you so much for being with us today. I do appreciate it. Up next, we have your letters from some tough questions, but we have answers here on Smart Life with Dr. Gina, so I hope you'll stay with us more right after this.